Senator Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy President. It is a pleasure to speak on one of the most important issues currently facing our nation, protecting our environment for today, for tomorrow and into the future, for generation after generation. A key part of this commitment is to stop the waste. That is key to our protection of the environment, on the land, in the air, along our coastlines and in our precious oceans. The Morrison government is committed to bringing to an end the 645,000 tonnes of unprocessed plastic, paper, glass and tyres which Australia ships annually overseas. The Recycling and Waste Reduction Bill 2020 will provide a vital phased approach to ensure this becomes a reality. As the Prime Minister said so succinctly, it is our waste, it is our responsibility. Madam Deputy President, I'm incredibly proud of the many ways in which the Morrison government is committed to protecting our environment. Whether it's meeting and beating our climate targets or supporting local environmental community initiatives, this is a government which takes the practical environmental actions which are required. By way of example, the government released the quarterly update of Australia's national greenhouse gas inventory, June 2020, just a very short time ago. The quarterly update confirms Australia has beaten its 2020 target, the target period being 2013 to 2020, by 459 million tonnes in lower emissions, including an overachievement from the previous record being between 2008 and 2012. This is an increase on the previous estimate of 411 million tonnes published in December 2019. Australia's overachievement on its 2020 target is due in large part to significant structural declines in emissions from the electricity and agricultural sectors. In 2019-20, emissions in the national electricity market, which is Australia's largest electricity grid, fell 5.3% to a new record low. Of course, this has also been driven very substantially by Australia's incredible investment in renewable energy, some $30 billion since 2017, as we continue to deploy new solar and wind at a rate of 10 times faster than the global average. Recent advice from the Clean Energy Regulator is that this trend is expected to continue in the coming years. So this is evidence of real action by a government with practical, real solutions. Labor, in contrast, remains committed to its reckless targets, and we have seen in recent weeks the internal war within the Labor Party over climate and over energy policy. Labor is all at sea. Independent modelling by BAE Economics shows Labor's 45% emissions reduction target and its 50% renewable energy target would drive up wholesale power prices by 58%, would cost the economy $472 billion, would reduce real wages by $9,000 per household and slash 336,000 jobs. And at least there are some in Labor which have worked this out and worked out the reckless policies which Labor, of course, took to the last election and which were soundly defeated. Yet it is very concerning that much of Labor's true thinking was revealed by its Environment Action Network, which said that high prices are not a market failure. They are proof of the market working well. Importantly, the Morrison government's approach with this bill before us today harnesses a cooperative approach with business, other levels of government, along with the community and individuals. As Minister Susan Lee said in her second reading speech, this bill implements the agreement by all of Australia's governments to ban the export of waste, plastic, paper, glass and tyres. It also incorporates the framework of the existing Product Stewardship Act 2011. It includes improvements to better regulate and encourage our businesses, those which design, manufacture, distribute and use products, to take greater responsibility for their environmental impacts. And that's a key point. Governments can do so much, but in order for us to reduce our waste, in order for us to embrace the circular economy, we have to do this together with every single business which creates waste and with every single family in every household across Australia. And this bill is a very important part of our very significant efforts to transform the nation's waste and recycling sector. It says that we have to take responsibility for what we produce, and the more we can recycle, the less that goes into landfill, the better we are now and into the future. The Commonwealth's 2018 National Waste Policy identifies 5 overarching circular economy waste principles, which are, firstly, to avoid waste, and that is by prioritising waste avoidance, encouraging efficient use, reuse and repair, designing products so waste is minimised, so that they are made to last and so that we can more easily recover materials from products which are produced. A second important principle is to improve resource recovery, that is, to improve material collection systems and processes for recycling, and also improve the quality of recycled material we produce. The third principle is to increase the use of recycled material and build demand and markets for recycled products. One person's rubbish is another person's treasure. Very important principle in that ability for us to see as so much of what we produce being recycled throughout our economy. The fourth principle is the better management of material flows to benefit human health, the environment and the economy. And the fifth principle is to improve information to support innovation, guide investment and enable informed consumer decisions. All of these principles make good environmental sense, and they are key to tackling the problem before us today. Our government, led by Prime Minister Morrison, is to be congratulated for its unwavering commitment to pursuing better environmental outcomes for all Australians. The export ban will be phased in, starting with glass on the 1st of January 2021, and then including mixed plastics, whole-use tyres, single resin or polymer plastics, culminating on the 1st of July 2024, when mixed and unsorted paper and cardboard will be included in the export ban. The export ban would only apply to unprocessed waste, which allows for the processing of waste materials within Australia for subsequent export and use in overseas manufacturing. Minister Lee has made it very clear that this offers an economic opportunity for Australia, saying the waste export ban is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform our waste management and recycling sector to collect, recycle, reuse and convert waste into a resource we can continue to use as a nation over and over. These reforms are expected to see the Australian economy turn over an additional $3.6 billion and potentially generate $1.5 billion in additional economic activity over the next 20 years. So this is a big win for both the environment and our economy. Of course, we recognise that if action is not taken, scientists estimate that in 30 years' time, the weight of plastics in our oceans will exceed the weight of the fish in the ocean, and that's a pretty horrifying thought. And I know where I live in southwest Victoria, including in the wonderful electorate of Corangamite, that is a very important priority. We want to make sure that our oceans are as clean as they possibly can be, and there is a really strong and important focus on reducing plastic in our oceans in communities where I live throughout the Corangamite electorate, a magnificent part of the world, as we know. Australians create around 67 million tonnes of waste each year. We want to see less waste going to landfill and ending up in oceans, and more being reused and recycled. We are building Australia's domestic recycling capability through our $167 million Australian Recycling Investment Plan. This plan will increase Australia's recycling rates, tackle plastic waste and litter, accelerate work on a new battery recycling scheme, and halve food waste by 2030. And I'm also very pleased that microbeads are being rapidly phased out. 94% of cosmetic and personal care products in Australia are already microbead free. National environmental initiatives are vital, but so are local environmental initiatives. And Madam Deputy President, I was very pleased recently to join with the Corangamite Catchment Authority to announce some very important local environmental programs for southwest Victoria, including the $6 million Wild Otways initiative, which includes a $1 million community environmental grants program, and that's been, of course, steered through Minister Lee's office. And that is a wonderful opportunity for local environment groups to make an application for funding to support a local environmental project, whether it be programs to improve weed and pest animal control, fencing and access track construction, or other improvement works and wildlife habitat improvement work. So for those who are reading this Hansard or listening to this debate and are interested in protecting our environment, I would absolutely commend this local project, which is as a result of the Morrison government's commitment to our local environment. And of course that was a commitment made before the last federal election. It was not matched by Labor, I note, which was pretty disappointing. These grants will provide an amount of funding between $5,000 and $50,000 per year for up to 2 years for each project. So they are very substantial local grants and are a really good example of how local initiatives do matter. This recycling and waste reduction bill represents an effective, cooperative, government, business, community approach to protecting our environment. I'm very pleased that the private sector has shown a willingness to be part of the solution. At Australia's first National Plastic Summit, hosted by this government in March, we saw a number of very major pledges from leading companies, including the Pact Group, Nestlé, McDonald's, Coca-Cola and Coles, all of which, of course, produce an enormous amount of waste. And it is important, and obviously very important, that we see that sort of commitment from our large businesses and companies around Australia. So to every business, large and small, please have a look at what we are doing in terms of supporting waste reduction, recycling and the circular economy. We are absolutely determined as a government to protect Australia's precious environment, to reduce waste, to embrace our circular economy, and our commitment in this bill is another example of our commitment to the environment, and I commend this bill to the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Henderson.